Hey everyone, today we are going to have another long video that is going to be filled with lots of valuable content. Since I've developed the habit of reading books, my life completely changed. I'm not alone. You can ask any successful person and they will tell you that reading books have played an essential role in their success. But not all books are equal. Some are life-changing, but others are a waste of time. So here in this video, let's take a look at 15 books you must absolutely read if you want to get smarter, wealthier, and succeed in every aspect of your life. There is going to be a table of content in the description so you can skip to the parts that you want to learn or come back and rewatch them again. This video is a combination of many of our previous videos. So grab a drink and some snacks, hit the thumbs button, and enjoy the video. Everyone talks about that you should be reading 50, 60, or 100 books a year. But the truth is, you don't need to read that many books. Because most books are useless, especially when it comes to self-development. And I'm not just throwing words. At some point of my life, I was super obsessed with self-help books that I have read every self-help book that I came across. But that doesn't mean that every self-help book is useless. In fact, some of them were so powerful that they had a significant impact on my life. And if you don't have the time or isn't a big fan of books, I want to share with you the ones that you have to read because they would make a difference in your life. Most of what these books teach is supposed to be taught by your parents, teachers back in high school, or professors at your university. But unfortunately, they do not. I still read books, but not as many as I used in the past. Because when you read an entire 300-page book and there is not a single new idea, you feel like you have wasted so much time. So let me share with you the books that would actually teach you something valuable. The 50th Law by Robert Greene. This is one of the books that had one of the most significant impacts on my life. And there is a strong reason behind it. You see, unlike every other self-help book, this book teaches you how to be fearless. How not to be afraid to be different, how to stand up for yourself, how to take risks and make bold decisions. The book is based on the life of Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent. The life of some rapper might not interest you, and that's what I thought in the beginning. But there was every reason for 50's life to go wrong, but it didn't. He never met his dad. His mom was shot when he was 8. He was living with his grandparents in a house with 28 other siblings. He was left with no other option but to sell drugs to make ends meet like his mother. Got arrested at high school for drug possession. Tried his best to make it into the music industry. But when he was 25, a car pulled up alongside Jackson and a guy pulled a gun and shot him 9 times. On the hand, arm, hip, both legs, chest, and left cheek. It's a miracle in the first place that he survived. Besides that, he tried to get out of drugs and make it into the music, but now, with his left cheek being shot, he couldn't rap. Any other person would have given up at this point, because the shot through his cheek left him with a permanent swollen tongue. But not 50. He was not ready to give up. He decided to gather his energy and fight back. Now that he has faced death, there is nothing left for him to be afraid of. Failure, disappointment, whatever. If you want to develop that kind of fearless approach to life, you must make certain changes in your life that Robert Greene suggests in his book. Nobody is born into this world fearless. We all come out crying, screaming, but as we grow up, we're afraid of darkness. We're afraid to be alone. We're afraid to be different. We are afraid of our parents, at least when we're kids. We have to either develop the character of fearlessness or stay where we are, where the society wants us to be. Influence by Robert Cialdini. There are a lot of books written on the art of dealing with people. Even Robert Greene has a book on that, which is 48 Laws of Power, and I actually suggested it in the previous video. However, it gives a bit darker perspective on human behavior, and in many ways that's true. But the book Influence by Robert Cialdini gives an entirely different perspective. It's more about the science behind making people say yes to whatever you want them. It might seem like people are smart and they usually base their decisions on science and logic, but the reality is quite different. Humans are mostly emotional and their actions are often irrational. And it's normal because we face so many decisions and we consume so much information every single day that we need some sort of shortcuts to make the decision process faster. We're guided by these shortcuts. The moment you understand these shortcuts, you can make almost anyone say yes. You can convince them to be your friend, help you out. Or if you're a salesman, you can get them to buy as much as you want and get that big fat commission at the end of the month. The richest man in Babylon. From my experience, almost everyone wants to be rich, even those who say they don't. I know that I will get a lot of hate for saying this, but that's what I have realized. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, money is a resource that enables you to do a lot of things, a lot of good things. Of course, the most popular advice is just work hard. Hard work will always pay off. To be honest, it doesn't unless it's smart as well. And that's why you need to read The Richest Man in Babylon by Samuel Klassen. Once upon a time in ancient Babylon, there was a very rich man named Arcade. In fact, he was the richest man on the land. Two of his childhood friends approached him to ask him how he managed to become so wealthy when they have been working so hard but barely fed their families. He replied that the secret is simple. You must not spend all the money you earn, but save a part from it and invest. And over time, your wealth will accumulate and you get rich. It's as simple as that. Arcade saved enough to lend it to a shield maker who paid interest on Arcade's loan, thus growing his wealth. These principles might be simple, but most people do not embrace them, which is why it's critical to read this book page to page to make these principles a fundamental part of your life. Without any exaggeration at all, the greatest financial habit you will ever learn is the ability to save money. It sounds so simple, and yet it's so difficult. Think about how much money you have earned in your entire life, and now ask yourself, how much of that left in your hands? Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. I hope I'm pronouncing this name correctly. Most people are dissatisfied with their daily routine, and often it's their jobs to blame. What makes things much worse is that their leisure time is spent recovering from their work in the laziest way possible. What do you do when you get back home? Watch TV, have some drinks, pull out that cigarette if you smoke, or maybe just play video games. But that shouldn't be the case. Work can be something that reduces stress, gives your life purpose, and makes you happy overall. And that's why Mihai calls this state of flow. It's when you are not motivated by external factors such as money or recognition. The work itself brings you so much joy that it takes your entire attention and pushes you to do it regardless of the outcome. That's the state that made Newton to come up with the modern principles of physics and Einstein to develop the theory of relativity. It's extremely difficult to reach that stage in the modern age because we have so much distractions such as drugs, alcohol. And the saddest part is, if you do not experience the state of flow in your life, you're wasting your time. And that's what makes this book so important to read. He explains how exactly you can reach that state. 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. I came across this book last year, and to be honest, it surprised me. It doesn't say anything revolutionary, but if you know anything about Jordan Peterson, he advocates for responsibility. His perspective on life is that responsibility gives meaning to our lives. Whether you agree with him or not, life is pretty purposeless when there is nothing to bear on your shoulders. However, the little rules he suggests to follow do make our lives much better, such as setting your house in perfect order before you criticize someone else, or compare yourself to someone who you were yesterday and not to who someone else is today. They seem so simple that everyone just should know them, but the matter of the fact is, people are living miserable lives because they are not following these rules. Look around, everyone is criticizing everyone else, but if you give a closer look into their lives, you will find out that they probably should focus on their lives first before pointing fingers. It was challenging to make this list because there were so many books I wanted to include, at least a few more. but I had to keep this list as short as possible. There is no point in reading a lot of books. You just have to read the right books, the books that will give you maximum benefit, and implement them in your life. Running a company is probably one of the toughest things ever. Being a CEO means taking difficult decisions every single day. One wrong decision and you can send your company into bankruptcy. And that's not just a statement. Think of Nokia, the company that's once dominated the phone industry, where it had almost 40% of the phone market with a valuation of $300 billion. It was almost impossible to imagine the future without Nokia. Even iPhones today don't have that kind of market share. However, the CEO of Nokia decided to align itself with Microsoft and not Android, and that was the turning point. In a matter of a few years, the company went from a market leader to almost declaring bankruptcy. Today, it doesn't even control 3% of the market. That's why CEOs on average read 60 books a year or 5 books a month to keep their minds sharp. Of course, no matter how many books you read, mistakes are unavoidable, but you will significantly increase your probability of taking the right decisions. Books have played an important role in my life. A good book often replaces a million advice from people all around you. And if it wasn't for a few books that I have read, my entrepreneurship journey would have been much more difficult. But you don't always need to read a business book, because at the end of the day, building a business and making money is often about your mentality, an outlook on the world, your social skills, and financial education. So here are the 5 books I honestly believe that will definitely make it easier for you to achieve your financial goals, whether it's maximizing your income or building a profitable business. If you're ready, give this video a thumbs up, and let's start with the first one. Once Upon Wall Street by Peter Lynch. Peter Lynch is one of the most successful investors in the world. In 13 years, he turned $18 million to $14 billion while he was managing Fidelity Investment, where he averaged a 29.2% annual return, consistently more than double the S&P 500 stock market index and making it the best performing mutual fund in the world. He has co-authored multiple books, but Once Upon Wall Street is probably his best, where he laid down the foundation of successful investing. You don't always have to be the top professional in Wall Street to find a good investment. Sometimes a great deal could be right around the corner. An analyst at Wall Street might not realize it since it's still too small. However, it might grow by 50% year after year. By the time Wall Street will realize it, it will no longer grow that much. So if you're looking for a great investment, you don't have to read JP Morgan reports. Sometimes you just have to look at business around yourself with a fresh perspective. One of my favorite advices from the book is that the best stock to buy is the stock you already own. You've already done the research and found a great company to invest in. If you have extra money, just pour the money into these stocks since you already understand why they will worth much more in the future. The second book on our list is 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. I don't think Peter Thiel needs an introduction. He has become an icon of Silicon Valley since 1990s when he built PayPal and went on to help other startups succeed, such as Facebook. He was the first angel investor in Facebook and helped Zuckerberg all the way to take the company public. The book 0 to 1 is about essential principles of building a successful company. Entrepreneurs who are trying to build the next Microsoft, the next Google, or the next Facebook will most likely fail because each moment happens once. The next Bill Gates will not build an operating system, the next Larry Page or Sergey Brin won't make a search engine, and the next Mark Zuckerberg won't create a social network. If you're copying these guys, you aren't learning from them. Of course, it's easier to copy a model than to make something new. Doing what we already know how to do takes the world from 1 to n, adding more of something familiar. But every time we create something new, we go from 0 to 1. If you're an aspiring entrepreneur, then you should definitely read this book. The next book on our list is The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. Seduction isn't just about seducing the opposite gender. You can seduce your boss to give you a raise, your employees to work harder, or partners to work with you. When I read this book, I had a completely different imagination of what this book looks like, but after finishing the book, I changed my mind. Seduction is a game of psychology, not beauty, and it's within the grasp of any person to become a master at this game. All that is required is that you look at the world differently, through the eyes of a seducer. The book breaks down different seduction strategies and how to implement them. It divides people into seductive characters, each with its strengths and weaknesses, and victims. Once you understand what type of person someone is, it's easy to find his or her weaknesses and end up seducing them. You might think you are not immune to seduction, and if someone tried, you would know. But that's not how it usually happens. When you get seduced, you won't even notice that. Haven't you seen how politicians or business leaders often draw crowds to them to serve their interests without people even realizing that? The fourth book on our list is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Making money, saving money, denying yourself instant pleasures, avoiding impulsive purchases are all habits. At the end of the day, our entire life is about habits. What time you wake up, how you dress, how you talk are all habits. The moment you control your habits, you can be anyone. Changing your life overnight is a great idea that is not practical. So what the book suggests basically is, instead of aiming for that one huge goal, focus on building habits that would make you slightly better every single day. If you get 1% better at something each day, at the end of the year, you will be 365% better at that thing. Just a 1% increase every day yields a 37-time improvement by the end of the year. Finally, the fifth book on our list is The Millionaire Fast Lane by MJ DeMarco. There are essentially three ways to build a fortune. The first one is the slow lane. Get rich on a treadmill. You get a stable job, move slowly through the hierarchy, invest 20% of your income, and by the time you're like 50 or 60, you will be rich if everything goes as planned, which rarely happens. The second way is Sidewalker, is where you become an athlete or a musician or a superstar. First of all, your chances are low. But even if you make it, you will have to spend most of your income to look rich, because that's what your wealth is based on. So a single financial challenge can often take you down. And then there is the fast lane, where you become an entrepreneur. It is a great read. What you have to keep in mind is that when reading this book, they're all useless unless you implement the suggestions and strategies that these books mention. All of these books are about practicality and not just theory, because reading such books is like reading cooking books. It doesn't really matter how many cooking books you read. They're not going to make a difference. What matters at the end of the day is you getting to the kitchen and trying. If you have never cooked anything, then you will most likely cook something awful, even if you have a step-by-step instruction. But if you repeat the same meal a few times, first of all, you won't need the instruction again, and secondly, you will reach to a point where you will be able to play around with ingredients and cook something different that could be better. Of course, it's unfair to compare cooking with building a business, but the point remains the same. Don't just take the theory. Always put it into practice. You will not see the results immediately, but as you practice it more, you will adjust the lessons to your circumstances and build something unique. What's up, guys? Let's talk today about something quite different. A lot of people ask me, how do I read a lot of books? How do I find the time to do that? And it's pretty much about productive speed reading. But here's the problem with that. Without absolutely any exaggeration at all, 80% of books that I have read are not useful. In fact, you don't really have to read them. They might add some value into your life if you read them, but it's quite limited. If you're not a big fan of books, then there is absolutely no reason for you to read them, because almost all of these books talk about the same thing. Sometimes it seems to me that they simply copied from each other. Seriously, sometimes I read an entire book and there is not a single new idea that I haven't came across before in similar books. So it's literally a waste of time, to be honest. So I thought I'm going to save you that time and tell you what exactly you have to read. The 5 books that I'm about to share with you are probably the only books that you ever need to read. I'm not exaggerating. I might not be the best qualified person to talk about this, but for the past 7, 8 or even more years, I literally read hundreds of books about all sorts of things, starting from how to make money, from how to negotiate, and a lot of other things. And I think everything that I have read can be beautifully summarized into these 5 books, because these books are not simply delivering information, but rather they are giving you a practical guide on how to apply them in real life. You can apply the lessons right after reading the book. In fact, if you don't read these books, you will literally suffer a lot in your life. You will waste a lot of your time on things that you could easily avoid. I think I have given you enough introduction so far, so let's just start with the first one. 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. This is one of the books that had pretty big impact on my life. I know that a lot of people view this book pretty negatively. In fact, some people even see this book as pure evil. But like it or not, this is the best book that's ever written on social intelligence. This book will teach you everything you need to know about how to deal with people, how to make them to like you, respect you, work for you, admire you, basically make people do what you want. A lot of people might say, don't you think that business books are more important? And the answer is no, because business is simple. Get a product and sell it. And this book is going to teach you how to do that, how to persuade people, how to negotiate, and every other thing that you need to know. So the lessons that are taught in this book aren't only about business, but pretty much everything else that's about dealing with people. The second book is by far the most influential book in my life, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and there's a pretty strong reason behind it. It completely changed my understanding of money and wealth. I was always interested in making money, like most of you, but it wasn't clear to me how to achieve that. It was pretty much more like a dream until I laid my hands on this book, because it helped me to think about a practical plan on how I actually can achieve that. This book isn't going to tell you, look, do this and you will make a lot of money. But it's more about changing your mindset, your understanding of money, job, business, and this kind of stuff. I'm sure that a lot of you will say that, please don't tell me about mindset. I want a direct action. I'm tired from this useless mindset books. But like it or not, I'm talking from my personal experience. The moment you change your views about money, you start seeing things differently, and you will never want to get a job after that, because you will find a way to become financially free. So you can't simply go through the idea of these books. You have to read them a couple of times, maybe understand them properly, because like it or not, money is one of the most important things of our life. So if you're serious about achieving financial freedom, you must read this book. The third book in the list is Mastery by Robert Greene. This book is unique of its kind. If you're confused with your life, if you don't know what to do with your life, if you're simply not motivated, then this is the book you have to read. It will teach you how to find your passion and how to master your passion. At the end of the day, we all have to master something to achieve some level of success. What happens usually is that you're passionate about something, you start doing that, and you don't see any results, and then you start losing motivation. And this book is going to tell you why and how to avoid that. In fact, if there is one book you will read out of this list, then be this one. And these 3 books will help you to achieve the kind of success that you usually think about. That's more about money, fame, and this kind of stuff. The kind of success that we get inspired with, because we can see that in other people and we want the same thing for us as well. But there is a different kind of success. Internal satisfaction, which is way much more important than the materialistic success. Look, what's the absolute goal of life? Why do you want to make a lot of money? Why do you want to achieve mastery? Why do you want to have great relationships? What is the final goal? Simple. Happiness. As long as you're happy, as long as you feel happy, you're successful. That's all what you want out of life, right? And guess what? You can be happy without the money and everything else. In fact, you can have all the money but still not feel happy. For some of you, it just might not make sense at all. And that's why I want to suggest to you 2 books that will explain to you why. So these are more spiritual kind of books, which I think are far more important than the first 3 books I just told you about. The first one is on the Shortness of Life by Seneca. It's going to change your perspective about life completely. After reading this book, you will start appreciating every single small little thing in your life, such as the fact that you breathe. Did you even know that you breathe? Although that is just such a small thing that you don't pay attention to, we simply cannot live without it. When you read this book, you will learn how to achieve this self-actualization, this self-awareness, and you will value your time and your life much more. And the second one is Mindfulness for Beginners. It's basically about Stoicism, and it's very short and practical book, simply written and beautifully summarized. There are actually many other books that I wanted to include in this list, such as The 50th Law, The 7 Habits, The Power of Habit, and many more, but these 5 books are much more important and valuable than any other books. You must read this book even if you hate reading, and if by any chance you're too busy, then check out my videos on how to read fast. They will definitely help you to read faster. And if you want to know more about these books before reading them, I've done separate videos about each of these books, which you can find in the description of this video, except the Mindfulness for Beginners, which I will do in the future. And now it's your turn to tell me, what's your favorite book? Which one do you think is the most important in this list? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next one.